Hello and welcome to Get Back Up, a podcast that is made with the intention of supporting people to get from wherever they are right now onto where they want to be or even the next step. So I'm bringing onto this podcast people I've met along the journey or my journey that I think have collected a number of tools that are going to be helpful to share with regards to resilience and basically just getting back up after you've had a bit of a fall. So my guest today is the most beautiful man, Rhys Uhlich. I know people like to be introduced by titles usually. Rhys was a school teacher. He then went on to win Channel 7's Make Me a Supermodel, went over to New York and did a heap of modelling, came back, had a clothing label. He's a dad of two little girls with his beautiful wife, Claire. He then was an actor on Neighbours and most recently has built a shed house. So I'm going to go into the whole lot. It all sounds very fabulous and I assure you, you're going to be in for an absolute awakening. How are you, Rhys?
Renee, I'm very good. That's quite the introduction. It's funny when you say all those different things I've done. I realise I've always had a lot of shame around doing so many different things, but I'm trying to celebrate that now later in life because I'm such an old man.
Yeah, I noticed back, I knew you back in your modelling days when you'd won that television show, and I always felt that you had a sense of almost embarrassment about being a model. And I don't know if that's because, when you come from a teaching background, it's all about, how much you know or how smart you are. And then it's so focused on what we consider almost like an egotistical world. So I don't know if you were judging yourself because you thought other people were judging you, or where was your head at that time when you were experiencing shame around modelling?
That's a good point. I guess, when you finish today modelling or doing a photo shoot, you don't really feel like you've really given yourself. And I think at that stage I felt like I had so much to give of who I was, and I was a bit of a truth seeker. I didn't feel like I had the medium to do that. So I did come to resent modelling a little bit for that very reason. I didn't want it to define me, but I found that externally it did. Everyone knew me as a model. But by doing a whole lot of other things since that and throughout my career, I've kind of realised that it is just a conduit, and it's more about the relationships that you form and your intention. You use the word intention in your introduction, and your intention going into that work. And even as something as on the surface shallow as modelling can be, quite a deep process depending on how you show up and then who you interact with and the lessons and the gifts you can receive and give.
Isn't that so true? And I think it's also true that you learn what your triggers are in that industry. I know for me, I went in this pageant many years ago in my 20s and I was over in the Bahamas and it was this Miss Bikini World. So I was representing Australia. And, as a kid, I had my hair short, looked like a boy. The kids at school called me Renads. They thought it was funny. It is kind of clever, but it was devastating. So you'd think you'd be on this world stage and you'd get this, the tiara, the flowers, the prizes, the trophy, and all I heard in that moment, you see the huddle on television. I don't know what you experience, but you see all the girls huddle around and you think that it's just like this circle of love, and all I heard was, it's fucking rigged. There's no way she should have won it. And I just remember going like, oh my God, I've aspired to this for 2 years and I've won it. I should be feeling like I've conquered Mount Everest, and someone's saying to me, you didn't deserve it, essentially, is what I heard.
It's a brutal industry. Absolutely. And I think that, initially that hit me for six. I was a sheltered country boy and thrown into the limelight in that regard, probably much like you were with your experience. And there is that saying what is the saying? The camera is a window to your soul, or something like that. And there is a lot of truth to that. So for someone that wanted to be seen, it was also quite intimidating to be seen on that level as well. And it's funny, I'm 37 now. I'm still modeling a bit, which is great. And I'm more comfortable than ever in who I am. And I'm finding that it shows up on camera and nothing intimidates me anymore. And, I've shot with my wife before, shot with people before and you watch them freeze up in front of the camera, you realize that, it's not as easy as it looks, and I've started now, instead of resenting this industry, really embracing the challenges and the things that it can teach me. And I actually really enjoy being in front of the camera and opening up and letting it see me and letting it see who I really am, not who I want them to see. So, it's, like life's fun, isn't it? I hated it initially. I didn't want it to define me, but now it's just a really nice celebration, one part of who I am. So, I've learned to come to peace with that part of me.
I've seen the transition because I know when you were in that show, I think you started off very surfer, beachy, long hair, and then whatever happened and, you shaved it. And what I think I've most admired watching you from afar is, you think you're going to see somebody that's modelling for a company like Maya, for example. And I just, there's this image in your head that I think, I had at least, of somebody that would represent a brand like that. And yet you show up unapologetically with your thongs, with your ripped jeans, with your, you've got your tattoo that your little girl drew on your arm. And it's it's so powerful because in an industry that's like glamour and illusion, you're just standing there unapologetically. This is me. Take it or leave it, guys. It's really it's got so much truth behind it. You're bringing so much truth to something that is so usually quite fake. And that is massive.
Thank you for saying that. That means a lot. And I think for so many years, I really struggled to try and fit into a role within the industry and wasn't accepting who I am. And it's funny, I almost feel like the industry met me in the end because, Maya came to me and they said, we've realized that authenticity and people's truth, no matter what it is more important than just a shallow campaign. And I was at that stage of my life where I was longing to share that truth. So obviously, the universe works in funny ways. I never thought I'd do a modeling campaign where I felt like I actually got to be me. And not only for that, but for a big brand, So that shoot was really healing for me. It really was. I showed up, I'd had an emotional week. I think my marriage had broken down and I was like, I cannot fucking do this. And they were like, no, this is exactly what we need, And I hadn't slept. And, to be honest, when they released that campaign and it was in all the windows in Maya all over Australia, I hated it initially because I was like, fuck, that's me. I just got out of bed. I'd been crying. But it was really healing to, people came to me and I think you sent me that photo yesterday saying that was one of your favorite ones. And it's been great to embrace just me, and nothing else, not the clothes I'm wearing, not the makeup or the hair and all of that. And it was a beautiful campaign for me to do. And I'm so grateful that that came around and and then it happened.
You should be proud. When you say you went through dark times, I want to talk about that because that's the very essence of this podcast. And I know people say they go through troubled times, they go through hard times. I've often said that, we might use the tagline, I've struggled with my mental health, or it was a really hard thing that I went through. They're all sort of very fluffy kind of words. When I talk about my hard time, if you will, I'll say I was in fetal position. I was in hospital. I didn't want to die, but I actually didn't want to live. And I was so depressed that I came to the point where I guess the best way to explain it was that even when good things were happening, I couldn't experience joy from them. I couldn't. So even though, if somebody had said to me at that time, oh, you've won the Powerball, you've won the lotto, I would have said, oh, that's really good, but do I have to drive down to Golden Casket, and get it? It would just be, it'd be another chore that I just couldn't even manage to even, that darkness that people fall into. I think that the trick of it is that when we're in it, we feel like no one else is in it and also no one else understands that we're in it or no one's been in the same sort of place. It's very hard to articulate, and that's what I think makes it so very isolating for people. And I mean, that is the essence of this podcast. So people that are in that right now, feeling that, I want them to be able to flick over here and go, he felt it, she felt it, they felt it. I'm actually not alone in this, and this is what they did. So my motto has always just been, just keep moving forward. Like whether you crawl, whether you step, whether you run, whatever you've got to do. And quite often I have crawled, I've been through legal matters. And I remember one morning like crawling to put my suit on in the morning, this crumpled suit on the floor. And I was literally crawling across the floor. And I thought, wow, this is it, like I'm crawling, but I'm moving forward, but I'm crawling. So I guess I wanted to really understand and know and get you to share, like, what does those times look like for you? Like, what does it actually look like and feel like for you? And what did you do to move through them when they come?
Yeah, well, you used the word darkness before, and I think that's a really, for me, that feels like it resonates as the most appropriate word to use, because universally we all share the same darkness. We experience it individually very differently. Is my experience in my interpretation of it. So I most certainly have faced a darkness within that I didn't ever know that I possessed. And when you, and it's not necessarily like, out of the movies, demons and devils, but you can certainly understand where these concepts come from when you attach and feel that darkness within yourself. Now, for me, it came up through addiction. I had a problem with sex addiction, which for a lot of men might seem like a dream, but it was horrific. It manifested, the darkness that I had manifested in that way. So that almost tore my whole life apart. When you're sitting in it, when you're sitting in that darkness, whatever way it manifests in your life, when you're sitting in it, you're right. You don't really want to keep going. You see yourself in a certain way that, for me personally, I didn't think I deserved to live. Possessing that kind of darkness and that level of despair that I had, it's very hard to see the way out. What got me out of those times is knowing that we all share this. We all share this level of darkness. Again, we experience it in different ways. Sorry, I just cut out. We experience it in different ways, but if we're able to allow ourselves to feel it, allow it to process through our body, however long it takes, and know that that is a part of our evolution, to acknowledge that exists within us, and to acknowledge that as much darkness is within us, there is as much light. But unless we acknowledge that darkness, we can't fully own ourselves in that light. So for me, it was the worst, but the best thing that's ever happened to me, because I feel like it allowed me to actually stand with resonance and stand within who I am, own who I am, because you can't have the dark without the light. It's such a cliche, but it's so true. The darkness that the world is going through right now is just a reflection of that same darkness that I've seen within myself, you've seen within yourself. I think acknowledging your own darkness allows you to see the darkness in the world and not hate it, not resent it, just acknowledge it. Acknowledge that it exists, and then work out ways that you can bring light to those situations. I've rambled a bit there, but
you
I just
haven't
feel like
at all. No, you've explained it really well, and I think it's important that you pointed out that contrast, because I've always said it is the darkest before the dawn. And what I've personally experienced is when I've had these massive victories, if I go over the timeline of my life, and I look at the things that I've so-called achieved, just before I've achieved them, the darkness that I've experienced in the weeks or the days leading up to that moment was just horrendous. It was crippling. And so it's almost now when I go through that, I feel like I move through it a little bit more easy, because I go, oh, here's that darkness. Well, what I know about that darkness is something really good is on the flip side of it. And I think because I let go of the fear that I used to have when the darkness came, that helps it actually shift, because you're like, oh, no, I've been here before. I know this darkness. I know this place, and I know it lies, and I know it says I'm going to be here forever and I'm never going, and and you get stuck in it. Whereas if you're like, oh no, I know you. I know what you're about, and I know how to navigate you, and I'm good with it. It means something amazing is about to come, and you almost see it as a blessing.
Absolutely, and I think if darkness, we've used the word darkness. If darkness is too heavy a term for you to face, and it's like it sounds so scary. I mean, you look at it as, like you said, as a lesson. When something incredible is about to come to your life, the universe will throw in front of you the hurdles that you need to overcome to become that person that you want to be, to do that job that you want to do, to have that lifestyle that you want to have. We all have limiting beliefs, limiting patterns. And if we want to get to that state that we want to achieve in life, they have to be looked at and they have to be owned and honored before we can get there.
Wow. So what I hear in that is you're almost talking about surrender, are you, just before?
Yeah, I think it's surrender, but I think there are lessons in it. Surrender is probably the hardest thing to do, because that's just acknowledging, letting go of control, and acknowledging what it is that's coming up. And quite often, I'm a stubborn bugger, like just before I'll get that ultimate job, I'll have some success, these things will come up and I will try and ignore them as much as I can. I'll have every sign from the universe that it's coming up. I'll get busy and but eventually it'll break me down. I think that if people are less stubborn than me, they can honor and face these things a bit earlier. And that's just as simple as acknowledging a pattern that's showing up, working your way through it, feeling what you need to feel, thinking, how can I show up better in this? And generally it's about, how can I not control the situation as much? It's always about control. How can I show up with the right intention and not control it?
Absolutely. And isn't that what also addiction is about too? Like, you think about addiction and pretty much everyone has some form of addiction. I mean, you said sex addiction.
Absolutely.
Russell Brand talks about that. My thing was food. So I'd be eating really late at night and too much and a lot of sugar. Others might be social media or gambling or pharmaceuticals or party drugs or whatever. Like,
Yeah, we live in a world where it's so easy to we numb ourselves. It's so easy to numb ourselves. In fact, it's celebrated. And I think of some addictions like monetary addiction, which a lot of my friends have. It's celebrated by humanity and by society. And I know, I look at these people closer and I watch them and I'm like, no, there's an addictive pattern here. And yes, it's not as damaging on the surface as a sex addiction or a drug addiction, but it's actually stopping you looking within and finding that internal peace. Internal peace and happiness is really all we're after. You hear of, Steve Jobs and all these people on their deathbed that said, I got it wrong. Yes, I gained wealth and notoriety, but I didn't enjoy the little things, and it's so easy to quickly externalize your happiness. But really, stopping, facing that darkness or those lessons, whatever way you want to frame it, and then finding peace, that's all we're here for.
It is, isn't it? It absolutely is. And I think people that are caught up in those kind of, like you mentioned, the money one, it's much the same as people that want to win or they want to get. And what I've personally experienced is when I set goals under that tone or with that intention, and it's happened time and time again, and I don't know why I've repeated it, but it's certainly been a lesson. You experience a joyless victory. And
that's when you know you've done it from the wrong place, or maybe from a place that's more gap filling than celebrating.
Yeah, because it's like, I mean, I used to spend a lot of time helping people in court with different things, and then toward the end, I'd hear snarky remarks. It's just in court. It's normal. It's the normal way people address each other. And there was a few times there when I said some things that were a little bit below the belt, and I thought, wow, like no one even blinked. And I thought, wow, I'm, in a world where throwing some underpunches is actually quite normal. And then I'd come home and I'd feel so depleted, and then I'd sit up and scroll social media and start eating, and I couldn't work out why I was doing that. And I'm like, I had to peel it back and go, okay, so I've had a win, or I've appeared to have a win, but like, at what cost? At what cost am I winning?
Yeah, look, I'm a big fan of the word intention. And I think that if you're really able to be honest enough with yourself, with your intention, with everything that you're doing and every situation you're going into. I think you can't go wrong. It takes a lot of self-awareness and a lot of brutal honesty with yourself. So why am I really doing this? Whether that's scrolling on Instagram, whether that's getting involved in a court case, or starting a new business. And I think that if that intention isn't to be of service and to also bring peace to your life, then potentially it might not be the right track for you. That's what I've learned anyway.
Yep. And I also know when you come into your heart and you come into balance, I don't know if you've noticed this too, but the right people and everything just falls into place. Like when I wanted to do this podcast, I just put it out to the universe because I'm like, I just want to help people. I want to help people get back up. And there's never, ever been a time like right now where people are falling over in different forms, of course, but they're like falling like dominoes, whether it's because they've lost money, they've lost, their career, they've lost all those crutches that they were hanging on to, they're falling over.
Yeah, and I think everything's supercharged at the moment. Everyone's stuff is coming up because it's not trying to break everyone down. It's trying to break everyone through. We're trying to rise as a collective right now. So if we can look at it as a beautiful gift, a beautiful time to be alive. Yes, there's going to be perceived pain, sadness. They're just feelings. I know in the moment, and we talked about darkness before, it's very hard to see beyond that. But if we can think that we're doing this for humanity, we're doing this for each other, we're doing this individually together, and it's gonna bring us a sense of happiness and peace that we've never had before. Hopefully, reframing that can help us get through those times. And also like hearing you say that before about now's that time where you're finding that real purpose and that real role. Sometimes it is just about timing. Don't be hard on yourself if you're banging your head against a brick wall and nothing's quite opening for you. You feel like you've got the right intention, you're doing everything right, and doors aren't opening. God knows I've been there much of my life. For a lot of the part, I still feel like I'm there in a degree today, but I do really believe there is a balance between faith, hard work, and timing. And they've all got to align for it to really work. So trust the timing. Check in with your intention. Be gentle on yourself if you're going through a dark time. Know that it'll pass, and know that it's for the greater good of everyone. And we're all going through it at the moment. I've faced darkness before. That doesn't mean I'm immune to it now. I wake up and I'm affected by everything I see on the news. I'm affected by everything that goes on in my world because it mirrors what I see out there. As much as I don't want to admit it, I have controlling aspects of my life that I'm resenting the government doing at the moment. So unless I can heal my own controlling parts of my life, I can't really point the finger elsewhere.
Oh, absolutely.
If I can heal my own controlling parts, I can have empathy for the controlling parts externally. And that's the only way to heal it.
And that's exactly how I feel about what's going on. And I also think people tend to look to others and just assume that the transition is easy for them. Like you could look at yourself as an example. You went from school teacher, you went on to do your modelling, you had your clothing label, and then all of a sudden you're like, I'm just going to build a shed house with a certain budget. Like it's so... Like it sounds so random, and it would seem from the outside looking in that you're just one of these people that have no fear, that you just go with the flow. You're like, this is an idea. You put the idea out, it just happens. And I just don't think that would be the case, because I know the grit and determination and inner work that is needed to, make that transition from one thing to the other. And I think people look at those that can do it, or those that have done it rather, and assume it's easy.
Yeah, I mean, I look at that shed journey, and that was really driven by a despondent man looking for his purpose and looking for a creative drive. I just come back from 2 years in LA chasing an acting dream, and having door after door close in my face, and we had to come home for some health reasons of my wife's mum, and I got home, tail between my legs, thinking I've just wasted all our life savings, and I got nowhere, and I was pretty despondent. I really was. I thought I'd failed, and everything felt so right about going over there. Everything, like before I went over, everything seemed so, everything was the synchronicity was there. But then again, some things are about timing. And although in your mind it tells you a story of what's going to happen, it's no mistake that I went over there and what I learned. And coming home, I just needed a creative drive again. I needed something creatively to do. And funnily enough, like we had a certain amount of money, 100 grand left in our account, and we needed a home. And I was really, hell bent on not having a mortgage. And I was like, I don't want to go back into that mortgage game. What can I do? And funnily enough, that same creative fire that I had with acting, I got from building sheds. I never thought I would, but whereas every door closed in LA, with the shed thing, every door opened, and I had to acknowledge that. I had to think, well, there's something in this. As much as my ego doesn't want to be a shed builder, there's something in this. And all of a sudden, I started sharing this build, and it resonated with so many people. I thought, shit, there's a business here. I've opened the business, and all of a sudden, I've got a potential TV show, out of it, maybe. So all this time in LA trying to chase time on TV, I come home and acknowledge what the universe is putting in front of me, and it might lead me back down the same track. And funnily enough, I got a call last week. I'm like, oh, would you consider doing this show in LA? I'm like, well, funny that, because I spent 2 years there thinking I wasn't meant to be there, but it just wasn't the right time. So I have a feeling I'll be back there, maybe as a shed builder, not as an actor.
That's unbelievable. Okay. So what are the voices in your head? I know for me, and I always like to go over my timeline to ask myself, what was I thinking? What was I doing? What was I feeling at the time? I know through my legal journey, what came up for me so many times that I had to whack and whack and whack with a baseball was like, you're not smart enough. It just would... It would haunt me, and I'd get up, I'd be in front of one judge, and I'd be about to address the judge, and I'd be hearing, Renee, you're not smart enough. And, I'm standing next to someone that's got 30 years legal experience. I've got no legal experience, and I'm having a legal argument with them in front of a judge that's the epitome when it comes to law. And so I'm trying to find my words. And I'm going, I've got this voice that's so loud that's going, you're not smart enough, you barely made it through school, and it would just be almost deafening when I was trying to speak. But it was no different to going in the pageants and doing the modelling. It was, you're not skinny enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not tanned, you're not this, you're not that. So everything that I've achieved, that voice has been so incredibly loud right before I've achieved it. And I know a lot of people, that voice comes up and they think, oh, that's a sign that maybe I'm not supposed to be doing this. Like they mistake the fear for, maybe I shouldn't be here. Maybe I shouldn't do this.
It's so believable, that voice. I still have that every day. Now it comes at nighttime. It comes in my dreams for me, because I think during the day I've mastered it. At nighttime, I absolutely wake up in so much shame. You're a phony. You're a fake. Who are you to enter a building industry? You're not a builder. You're going to fail. You always let people down. I still hear this every night, So on one level, I thank it, because I know I'm doing the right thing. If these things are coming up, these limiting beliefs are coming up, I'm like, perfect. I'm on the right track, because these things are coming up to heal. One thing, acknowledging it, another thing, healing it. But trust me, I've been there, and I'm still there at the moment. But
so what's the voice at the moment? I'm not a shed man. I'm a merman. Like, what is it?
No, the voice at the moment is, you're going to fuck this up, because I've never had a business opportunity in front of me. I've always been scared of money, because the way I was raised. I was raised to be resourceful. I was raised a lot of the time in Bali and watching the Balinese being so resourceful with, and that's how my shed journey was. I was really resourceful with the build, and that's what resonated with so many people. Now I've got this opportunity to make a lot of money with this in a good way, because then I want to make documentaries. Like, I do want to be of service, but then there's a block to actually making that money. It's like, you will fuck this up. Money's bad. You don't deserve money. All these inquiries that are coming in, I'm like, no, that's not real. Like, something's got to go wrong here. And I'm acknowledging that that's just the limiting belief. That's just me and my story. And I'm trying to change that as quick as I can, so I can allow the flow of not just money, but like business and to come in, so then I can be of service in the way I want to be, not in a little pissy way. Like, I want to make big documentaries. I want to tell stories. I want to change humanity, just, like you are. I want to speak to people. I don't even know what I've got to say, but I just know I've got to start speaking.
Yeah,
So
isn't that well said?
And just like you in the court, it's like, who are you to be there? Who are you not to be there? Because everything that you know it all inside. We're just told through school and through society that no, if you haven't read it in a book and studied it for 5 years, you don't know it. Fuck that. If your intention is there, if your truth is there, if you're meant to be there, you'll be there and you'll change the world. And I think our biggest deficiency as humans is we don't believe that. We believe that, who am I to do that? Who are you not to? If you have that inner belief, follow it. And yeah, for me, I think I've just realized that I'm not a shed builder. The sheds are just a conduit to my storytelling. I'm very grateful to have that steel structure there to help me tell my story, but it's not really about the sheds. It's about my ability to tell stories with the sheds and then to speak to other families and tell their stories with the sheds. Wherever that leads, I don't know, but I've just got to work on my blocks and enjoy that journey.
Yeah, there's a much bigger picture at play, clearly. And I think when you're coming from the heart, whether you're building a shed, whether you're in the courtroom, and I even look at that phase I went through where I was helping people with a lot of legal matters, as much as it was pretty ruthless, I was still in my heart. I was helping people that were standing for things that mattered.
Absolutely.
Helped an innocent man be released from prison, and you go into one of those places and you see an innocent person sitting in a maximum security jail. I wasn't there for the 30-second grab I got on the news that night. It was like my heart was calling me to get that man out. And I actually thought, well, I'm going to use my contacts that I had in media, and I'm going to use the fact that back from the modelling days, I knew how to put some, fake eyelashes on and sort of look the part and, dazzle up in a suit. So I feel like what we're all doing as we move through life, we're collecting these tools, right? And we think that they're going to be for a certain thing, and then they end up being for something else. It's like through that legal journey, I'm a pretty solid letter writer. So when I write a letter, it's like, look out. And I call that my absolute jackhammer. And I had something come out with my son a few weeks ago, and I had to write a letter. And I sent it out to a couple of friends, and they said, whoa, I would not like to be on the receiving end of that letter. Like, look out. And I said, you know what? I've got that jackhammer in my toolbox. I don't like to pull it out all the time. But when it comes to my son, you better believe I'm going to pull out that jackhammer if I need it. And so I feel like, through the modelling, well, for me, I collected, I knew how to do hair and makeup, and I know how to present in front of a camera. I use that through the legal journey I went through. And then going on to study counselling, I started really turning in and understanding the emotional journey that people go through and going, oh, hang on, this is another tool I'm getting to add to my box. It's not that I'm going to be a counsellor. This is just literally another tool. And I think if people could understand that what they're doing is they are simply just adding tools to that box that, they're going to use for something probably completely different to what they thought.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I've said at the start of this podcast that I had shame around all these different titles that I've had when you introduced me. But I've had the most random jobs, but they've all added to my tool belt. I started as a school teacher, and I think that allowed me to learn how to hold myself in my truth. If you can hold yourself in front of 5-year-old kids, you can hold yourself in front of anyone, because they can see right through you within a minute. So without knowing, that was my grounding. And then I went into modeling, and I learned how fickle the entertainment industry can be. And I got lost in it, I got addicted in it, I fucked up in it. Then, moved through media, slowly found who I was, and now, obviously doing photo shoots and standing in my ground, and all of a sudden now doing shed houses, but then going back to storytelling. Funnily enough, at university, I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I was like, oh, fuck, I'll just choose arts and I'll major in TV documentary. So all of a sudden now, I'm 37 and all I want to do is make documentaries. I didn't know it as an 18-year-old. I just randomly chose it, but it wasn't random. It was all beautifully meant to be. So from the TV documentary arts degree to teaching to modeling to Neighbours to shed house building, it's actually perfect. It's actually like all meant to be, and I've just picked up those tools all along the way. And if I'm making a Shed House Australia TV show next year, everything that I've done previous has led me to that moment.
It sounds so random, doesn't it? But to people listening that are going through something, I think if they could look at what they're going through as, I'm actually just earning a tool. I
love that. Yeah.
I'm earning a tool for my box. Yeah. I'm not going to judge it.
Yeah.
I'm currently in the process of earning it. And you can, like, I want to I don't want to say go
I
off track, but it feels
no,
sometimes like you go off track.
I agree, but I think there's something really powerful. I haven't, you've just brought this up, but really powerful in acknowledging that this could just be something for my tool belt, and then you might be able to have more awareness about what that is, and actually pinpoint, oh, this is what I'm learning right now. Not get so caught up in the job and the title and the role, but what is it in particular that I'm meant to learn here? I think, I wish I'd had that knowledge and awareness throughout my journey, because I always hated being defined by one thing. But you're only defined by your soul and your essence and who you are. And the rest, you just pick up tools along the way. I love that analogy.
And you talk about that stubbornness, and I can relate to that. There was a manager in my building, and she said, "Oh, you've got to meet this lady." This a few years ago, you've got to meet this lady downstairs. And I said, "Oh no, I don't want to. I can't even catch up with my own friends. Like I'm flat out. Like I'm just like a mouse on a wheel. I don't want to meet the lady downstairs." And she's like, "No, I really feel like you've got to meet her." And I was like, "Look, why?" And it was almost like she kept pushing it, and she just wouldn't let up on it. And so I was like, "Look, I'll just meet her." Ended up becoming really good friends with her. And so leading up to, it was last year, I said to her, "I don't know what product it is that I need to sell or get behind, or I'm trying to get some clarity." And she said, "You're the product." And I was like, "What?" And she said, "Renee, you are the product." And I couldn't comprehend what she was saying. And then it was so bizarre. She became terminal with throat cancer. And I've always been so scared of people dying or me dying or anything like that. It's been at the top of my list when it comes to fear. And she, in her final weeks, was saying to me, what people need to know is they need to know how to keep going, how to move forward, how to get back up. And you are going to be the person to do it. And I was like, this is insane. This is insane that somebody these are her final weeks, and she's using her breath to tell me that I needed to use my breath to help people move forward and get back up. And if I would have kept being so stubborn and refusing to meet her like I initially did, I don't even think I'd be sitting here now doing this. So it was definitely like a download that she was getting and that she was passing on to me about how important it was and how much it was needed.
Yeah, I think that's an incredible story, and what a gift for you to meet her. And I'm so glad she spoke those words to you, because facing darkness, facing tough times and getting back up allows you to have an empathy and an understanding for humanity and for other people at such a level that can heal the world. So those people that need to listen to your podcast and need to be getting back up, they're the key to us healing, because they're the unconditional lovers that we all need. Once you've been through your own darkness, and trust me, you'll get through it, you'll have an unconditional love and an openness so huge that the world cannot help but heal from that. So what she's done is incredible, and by you following that and listening to that guidance is powerful.
Yeah, she said she was a school teacher and she had her tongue removed at the end, and she said, "Well, my tongue's gone, but yours isn't. And you've got something to say, girl, so you get out there and say it." And I just thought,
it's incredible, isn't it?
It was incredible.
And the fact that her illness was so related to her voice and her using her voice and expressing, and she came to terms with that wasn't her journey this lifetime. She had so much to say, but then she met the conduit in you, and you had that passion and that power and that same belief system that she saw. And yeah, it's amazing. You can't say that we aren't guided and life isn't incredible, and we're not here to fulfill a purpose when you hear stories like that.
No, and it was, Rhys, it was so profound because, I had an incredible connection with her, and we were out walking by the river, and I put my hand on her back, and I thought, and she was better at that point, and I thought, she's going to be gone in 3 weeks. And I pulled Christmas forward, and everybody said, what are you doing? And I said, she's not going to be here. I just knew.
Yeah.
And the beautiful blessing again, because I'm always looking for what is the gift, what is the lesson, what is the blessing. Like I told you, death and dying, that was at the top of one of my fear lists. And the way it all turned out at the end was that, she said, just let me know when it's all over. Like, when there's no hope, she was a really straight shooter. I just want someone to level with me. I just want someone to tell me how it is. And I went to her and I said, that point we talked about? That's where we're at. That's where we're at right now. And I have never seen a human being with so much courage. So I got the gift of being there when she passed. I got to see it wasn't as traumatic and fearful as what I thought. And now I'm getting to be that conduit for the voice that she lost. So the blessings, I could sit here and go, oh my gosh, I've just lost a friend. I'm going through the grieving process. It's so depressing. And it has been a really sad time because the cycle of grief is very real. And you get down and then you feel okay and then it passes. But the blessings are absolutely endless. And I think we all believe that we've got so much time left. We all think, we're going to live to 80 or 100. And, we're not. We're not all going, that's not a definite for any of us. It's not, there's no guarantee.
No, it's not. And you used the word courage before, and you were obviously taken back by her courage that she showed on her way out, in a way that's tragic because so many humans don't see their own capabilities and their own courage until they're faced with their own mortality. So, if there's a lesson that we could take from that, it's to draw from that incredible courage that we all have while we're alive, while we have a gift to share. So, learn from those people that maybe it's too late, because that courage that she had, she always had, and she was always able to draw from. And quite often, from my experience, we don't draw from it until we're on the way out. If we could take that courage and stand up to what we need to stand up to now and have that belief, the world would change a whole lot quicker.
So I want to share something with you. She said to me, she was flicking through my Instagram and she said, you've got to get the Merman on your podcast.
Merman. I never wear my hair down. And today, obviously, I had a swim before this. I was like, hey, I know Renee always liked me with my hair down, so I'll leave it down. But I always feel like a hippie when I have my hair down, so I put it up in a bun, and it kind of looks short, and I feel more respectable, or people will listen to me more, which is interesting,
isn't it? But, very divinely guided.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've never done a Zoom interview or an interview with my hair down.
Looking like ever. A merman.
There you go. Yeah, I'm comfortable with that term, but I'll embrace it. I'll put it in my tool belt.
And your tool belt. Speaking of tools, so what do you think are, I guess, the most powerful tools that you have learned? Now, whether that be through, with regard to addiction or through transitioning from one career to another, because that's very confronting for a lot of people, or any big life events, like what has been the key tools that have enabled you to transition, if you will?
Oh, yeah. I mean, for some reason, forgiveness came up. I think a lot of us hold shame, and a lot of us really don't like who we are deep down, or we are berating ourselves for something we did 10 years ago. So I think forgiveness, number one, forgive yourself so you can be who you are meant to be. And then intention. I just keep intention for me. It's like if your intention is pure and you really want to share messages that humanity needs, just go for it. No matter what it is, just go for it and trust that you'll find a way. when I, shifting careers, especially from, acting to shed building, I mean, I had to get my ego out of the way first and foremost because I was embarrassed to be a shed builder. And then the next emotion to come up was, who am I? Because I'm not a builder. The best thing I've ever done is build a chicken coop, and that fell apart in a year, But it was trusting that I was meant to be here. I was meant to be here, and I'm meant to shake up the industry a little bit. I'm meant to show people how to be resourceful, and more importantly, I'm just meant to share my messages. So I think it's just checking in with your intention. If that's in the right place, and you'll know, your heart will tell you, then go for it. Just go for it.
And you talk about forgiveness, and I think that's an important point that you raise, because I've always looked at forgiveness like you see some things that you think are completely unforgivable. I know a lot of people feel like there's people that have been traumatized through childhood or had, rough parents that had
most of us are holding some trauma.
Most people. In fact, I did some prac hours in aged care a little while ago, and I cannot believe the 80 and 90-year-olds that are still talking about stuff from their childhood. And I'm like, wow. Imagine being 80 or 90 and still talking about the time my mum cut off all my hair, or the time the school teacher said that I was this or that. And, what has helped me with regard to forgiveness, and I feel like I've had to forgive some what I would term unforgivable things, is that I forgive that the people didn't know better at the time. So you don't have to necessarily forgive what they did, because there's some people out there doing some funky things. And when you say to a person, "Oh, you've just got to forgive them," it's very people put their guard up and their stomach tightens. It's like, hang on a minute, this awful thing happened to me, and you're just in my face going, you just need to forgive. And it sounds so like it rolls off the tongue really easy. You need to forgive, yet it's so true. And I think to forgive the unforgivable, the first step is really, no, you just forgive that they didn't have a level of awareness, or they weren't in a place to know better at the time. Because if they knew better, they would have done better, right?
Yeah, and forgiveness or empathy, I think they're both pretty similar. I think empathy is a big one, So it's not, you don't have to understand their actions, but you can understand, just like you said, that maybe they didn't know better. And the way I look at it, I think most of the leaders of the world right now just have unhealed, repressed childhood trauma, or trauma from some part of their life that they haven't looked at. And that's when someone can lead or can act in a way that hurts other people, or so the world has a lot of trauma, individually and collectively, and I think we're not taught to look at our trauma, to understand our trauma, and especially generations past weren't taught. I look at my mother, and that whole generation, they just constantly project, because they're not taught that those traumas that they hold inside, they can release them and they can look at them, but it's almost like they're too far gone. They've come this far. They were the generation after the war. They just had to knuckle down, pay off their house, send the kids to the best school possible, get it done. Don't fucking acknowledge anything else. Don't look at anything else. Just get that done. And I feel really sorry for that generation, because so many of them, and our leaders are that generation, we're not taught that healing themselves is the most important thing we can do. At the same time, I'm very grateful for that generation, because they've showed our generation what not to do in a lot of ways, and how unhappy you can end up if you don't look at your shit. Heartbreaking on one thing, but we all, in terms of evolution, I guess that generation in a way took that role to help us evolve.
Yeah, and I think where we're at with that, I know for myself, something I struggled with was when anger came up for me, I felt like my two choices were either to be angry and to express that anger, or to suppress it. It felt like option one or option two, be angry or express that anger and look and feel and sound like a very angry person. So I was constantly bouncing between suppressing or having outbursts. And when I look at social media at the moment, I really do wonder, and I don't have the answer to this, I'm not going anywhere with it, but I'm looking at social media at the moment, and it's a necessary evil. I mean, I've avoided Instagram, and I really have to release some blocks around that, whether I put some admin on there to filter things or whatever I'm going to do. I don't know. I've definitely had some blocks around it, but I what I'm witnessing when I get on there anyway, and might just be my own projections, but I'm feeling like people can no longer suppress and they need an outlet for what they're feeling, and the only place that they've got to dump that down right now, because is social media. I mean, you can't get in with a psychologist for 3, 6, 9 months at the moment, and people need an outlet.
Yeah, I think suppression is the worst. I'd rather express, even if it's dysfunctional, than suppress. As long as it's not violent and doesn't hurt other people. Expression, even, just express. Get it out. Get it out. Don't hurt anyone. Don't physically or verbally hurt anyone, but get it out. You'll be like a baby giraffe. Your first kind of expressions will be awkward and weird, and you'll say shit you didn't really need to say. But don't judge it. Just get it out. The problem with what's going on in the world at the moment is it's just a distraction for people to project their own anger onto something else. Whereas, I keep saying we need to actually look at our own stuff, express that in a healthy way, whether that's taking up painting, walking, surfing, whatever it may be. They're all expressions that help you release internal traumas, dialogue, whatever it may be. As soon as you get caught up in what's happening externally, reading the paper, watching the news, you're lost. You're gone. I'm not saying you're gone forever. You can come back, but you're just projecting your own stuff. So you don't heal by telling people what they're doing wrong.
Oh, absolutely. It's a rabbit hole. It's a rabbit hole when you get on there. And
I'm down there every second week, but I'm able to pull myself out of it. It's not to say that these things aren't going on in the world. They are. They're absolutely existing, but getting so caught up in them and feeling like you are completely under control by that, then you are. But you're only as free as you let yourself be. I come from Victoria. We've been in lockdown for 18 months, but my freedom isn't in the hands of other people. It's in my own hands, and it always has been.
That's so beautifully and powerfully said, because, it's very easy to get caught up in this narrative of whether you're talking or debating about masks or vaccines or, I mean, the way people go off about these topics. I mean, even getting off that, even Prince Harry and Meghan, you say something about that and you see people go off like firecrackers, and I'm like, wow, I find that really quite interesting. Like Prince Harry and Prince Meghan really trigger something in people. I don't know what it is, but I decided a couple of months ago, I'm like, okay, I'm not talking about vaccines, I'm not talking about masks, and I'm not talking about Prince Harry and Meghan, because not for any other reason other than, I guess in my former life, there was a lot of conflict in courtrooms. I experienced a lot of people in conflict, and it's heavy. It's heavy stuff, and sometimes, I think it's good to just tiptoe around on the lighter side too, to actually fill your life force back up and let your energy centers clear a little bit.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think, those conversations is very relevant ones about vaccines and masks right now. There's time and a place for those conversations. But if you believe your freedom and your happiness is relying on that, you're wrong. I think we just have to be really aware of that.
Yeah. And I'm Rhys.
I know it's such a divisive topic, and I know that will really trigger people, because I understand that they believe that there is no other choice, but I implore them to look within, to be brave, to be honest with themselves, to look within, because I promise you, your true freedom, you have that key. No one else has that key. The rest will open up. The doors will open when you take hold of that key yourself, and don't get it from a politician. I've got a key right here. I have my own freedom key. I have 6 of them. I can give them away.
Isn't it so true? It's so true. It is perspective. It is It is so joined to whatever your chosen perspective is. And what I also believe with regard to that is that and I saw this on Oprah many years ago, is the problem also comes when we're living on unexamined perceptions. So meaning we are not able to examine what we feel, think, and say on the hop. And I use the example, back in the day, you would receive a letter, You would read the letter, you'd digest it, you might sleep on it, you'd think about it, you'd go for a walk, you'd have that contemplation, you'd go back and forth, maybe with someone else, maybe with yourself, in your own mind. Like, you digest that letter, and then you sit down when you're ready in your quiet time and you give a response, and it's a very deliberate response. So you're getting a chance to examine what your own perception is before you respond. Now, with the nature of digital technology, social media and whatnot, we're able to respond, whether that be a text message or whatever, we're able to respond very quickly. So we're not always examining what our perceptions are while we're on the hop, because you just can't examine your own perceptions that quickly. So we just respond. We're responding from a very different place.
Yeah, and I think, and to add to that, not only that, is we're told by mediums all around us what it is we should be feeling and thinking as well. So we don't have that peace and that quietness to actually listen to what our perspective really is. Instead, it's being shoved into our minds, and that's another worry, I guess.
So it's almost a case, really, of making a conscious choice to say, this is changing my perspective by consuming this information constantly. I'm actually going to tune it out or stop it so that I can readjust my mind and my own perspective, really.
Absolutely. And I think whatever your beliefs are on any issue, you're going to find evidence to support it. So I think taking stock and stepping back and actually, getting in nature, if you can find a desert, go to a desert. They're the most incredible healing, transformative places. Spend time on your own and just really listen to that inner guidance, and that guidance from nature. Nature is your news source. It really is. It's the only thing you ever need to really be listening to. The rest is just smoke and mirrors.
It's noise, isn't it? It's outside noise.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, I know you're absolutely hanging for a surf, like the ocean's calling you. So I won't keep you much longer, but I just want to finish off, if we could, with these 3 sentences that I would love you to complete. So the first one is, at my lowest, I felt.
At my lowest, I felt worthless. That's it. I felt completely worthless. I didn't deserve to live. Not only did I not want to live, I didn't deserve to live.
Wow, that's so confronting.
Yeah, I remember I had tingles now. Ringing my wife I was on Hollywood Boulevard, and I had to pull over, and I was like, I can't go on. I don't deserve to live. Like, because I think I was in a moment where I was so deep in my own darkness, I didn't see a point that the world should allow me to keep going, Oh, God, sorry. That a couple of years ago.
That's so honest and brave of you to share that.
Yeah, I don't think I've processed that. I'm feeling a lot coming out of me right now. But yeah, it was a big realization to know that I could go that low. You hear of other people going that low and having those thoughts and those beliefs, and they're like, wow, I went that low. Like, and I didn't. It's not even like I didn't want to live. I actually didn't feel like I deserved to. Like, I kind of needed someone to go and take me off the earth. I didn't deserve to be there. It was anyway. Yeah, that was a moment.
Wow. And maybe, that worthless, that very deep, hard to digest feeling is probably everything to do with what you're speaking about now when you say you're with the money. The blocks around money, that's all worth, isn't it? Isn't that all worth?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And I used the word forgiveness before. It comes from forgiveness. So no matter whoever's listening to this, or no matter how low you are, you have to find a place to forgive yourself. Because trust me, we've all sinned. We've all made mistakes. We've all manipulated. We've all controlled situations. We've all done things so we felt safe and in control. But forgive yourself. Look at what the people in the world are doing right now. We have to forgive them at some stage, so forgive yourself.
Gosh, to feel worthless, and yet what you just said is absolutely priceless. Worth no dollar amount to share so vulnerably with people, because You can't put a
And that's,
number on that.
sorry, I won't waffle on, but that's why before I said, these people that are getting back up right now, they're the key to us healing, because they're the ones who will have empathy coming out of this. And
Well,
empathy is what we need.
I do have 2 more sentences to finish, but you
Yeah,
knocked
go
me
for it.
for
I'll
a
keep it
6.
short.
My fake eyelashes are going to fall off.
Me too.
The way I got back up was...
Wow. Oh, God. Okay. Wow. I feel like it was just like you used the analogy crawling. I crawled. I just kept moving forward, just one little inch at a time. I wouldn't even say showing up. It wasn't even showing up. It was moving out of bed. It was getting out of bed. It was just move forward and then forgive and then start believing again. Just believing that you're here for a reason, that you're a good person. You're a good person. You've made mistakes, but that doesn't mean you don't deserve to be here. You're a good person. You deserve to live. Not only do you deserve to live, you deserve to lead. You deserve to share. You deserve to inspire.
So correcting the self-talk.
Yeah, but just a little bit at a time. You're not going to, people talk about this awakening where they were at this low point and they woke up and they were like Eckhart Tolle talks about, everything changed. And for me, it was like, fuck no. It's taken me 2 years to start believing I deserve to be here again. I certainly do now, and I certainly want to be of service, but it took time.
Yeah, it does. It doesn't happen. You don't just wake up and one day you think, I've got it all together now. I'm going to just come out swinging. And often I find when I do have those days and I think, whoa, I'm back on the horse, I'm right. And then it's like 3 days later I get hit with a baseball bat. Oh, don't think you're all that, Renee. Don't think you're all that. You're going down, girl.
And that's life, and that's the beauty of life, And I think it is all a beautiful journey in that respect. But yeah, I didn't give you a one-word answer for that.
That's all right. And the third sentence that I'd love you to finish is, the blessing in disguise was...
Me. I was there all along, I was the blessing. Meeting me, trusting me.
Oh, wow. You have exceeded my expectations and then some. Thank you so much, Rhys. Thank you for
likewise.
Just being so honest and so vulnerable and so generous with wearing your inside on your outside, because
this is why we're here. We're here as humans to share this and to share truth and to share conversation and to inspire each other, not by fucking facades or how much money or cars or acting jobs or whatever, but let's just talk. Let's just talk. And no matter what you've done, I forgive you and I love you. That's why we're here.
That's the message. We love you too, Rhys. You're a beautiful soul.
Thank you for having me. Oh no, I've gained just as much out of this. Trust me, it's been a beautiful experience.
I'm going to talk to you soon. Please stay in touch.
I will. Take care.